because on a Thursday afternoon we have a large number of people from the boating community and the elected community here. So, let's get right to it. Over the past few months, during this boating season, I've read newspaper articles and spoken with recreational boaters who are concerned about their boats being stopped over and over and over again when they're trying to enjoy a beautiful day out on the river. The message from the boaters is crystal clear. Repeated and redundant stoppages are forcing boaters to shut down their engines too many times, slowing the day, slowing down their enjoyment of this beautiful river, the Hudson, slowing down our local economy. It's just not fair, and it's not that it is the worst problem in the whole world, but when it seems so nonsensical, it gets to be grating. And I know how you feel. You say, this doesn't make much sense. Why are we being stopped, inspected for something, and then a half hour later being stopped by another authority and being inspected for the same darn thing? That's the galling part about this. It's sort of one hand not knowing what the other is doing. People are out fishing, floating, just relaxing with their families, and they get a visit from the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard will ask for their paperwork. They'll check to make sure they have enough life jackets and flares and send them on their way. Nothing wrong with that, but here's the problem. A couple of hours after being cleared by the Coast Guard, the state police will stop the boat and perform exactly the same check. Then a couple of hours after that, it could be the local sheriff's office with the lights flashing. Now, all of these agencies do a great job. I'm not denigrating any single one of them, and their job is incredibly important. We have Indian Point a few miles down the river. We need to protect it. We have our bridges. We have other boats from reckless or intoxicated boaters. But when 3 different agencies stop you on the same day, and occasionally it's one agency more than once, it's almost like you're boating on the Hudson in the dead of winter when it's full of ice. You don't go anywhere. You're busy being stopped all the time. One hand clearly doesn't know what the other is doing. The Coast Guard doesn't know if the sheriff has pulled over a boat. The sheriff doesn't know if the state has already made a check on the same day. So it saps all the fun out of boating. And that's why there's an organization dedicated to stopping it. I've learned through my I'm not supposed to say how long, because it means I'm old. For my many years as an elected official, although I gave it away because I said I was assemblyman at age 23 when you, Carrie, took office, but maybe you can't do all the math. But in any case, in all my years as an elected official, I can sort of tell when a problem gets to that peak point. And that has gotten so here today, as exemplified by the people behind it. Now, we know how important boating is. Boating contributes millions to the local economy each summer. It helps sustain jobs at boating clubs, marinas, waterfront restaurants. I've had a passion to try and help the boating industry. In fact, a few years ago when they wanted to put a big tax on boaters at the federal level, I helped lead the charge successfully against it. Many of you backed me up in that regard. And here's a great statistic that I'll bet most of you don't know. What are the 3 states that have the most pleasure boating craft? Well, guess which one of them is? New York. We're 3rd. Do you know what's 1st and 2nd? Just take a guess.
California.
Florida. Florida is 1st. Good guess. But the 2nd one, it has to have a lot of water and a lot of people.
Illinois.
Close, but it doesn't have much water. Michigan. A lot of water and a lot of people. So Michigan's 2nd, but we're 3rd. Between Long Island, the Hudson, Finger Lakes, Lake Ontario, and Lake Erie, we are a boater's delight in New York State. And so we have a lot of these boats, and it's important not only to New Yorkers' enjoyment of our beautiful outdoors, but important to our economy as well, because the economy is sustained. Boating is a huge billion-dollar industry in our country, and I had the numbers in our state when I was doing this before. We'll try to get them for you. I think it's in the billions or hundreds of millions if you take not just the boats themselves, but the fishing and bait places, the places that sell the boats, the places that gas the boats, the little restaurants on the water that serve the boats and things like that. So, bottom line is we need to get our river economy moving like a speedboat. These stoppages have made it more like a rowboat. So here's what we're going to do about it. on the Coast Guard to take the lead in streamlining the patrolling process and come up with a system to improve the communication between federal, state, and local authorities so the same boats aren't getting stopped over and over again. As I said before, instead of screening one boat 6 times, they ought to screen 6 boats once. And that would make things better. And you say, why is this happening? Well, it's analogous to what happened with police and fire and EMT right after 9/11. And this is an outgrowth of 9/11. You know, before 9/11, we worried less about Indian Point. Before 9/11, we worried less about somebody doing some damage to one of our bridges that crossed the Hudson. We worry about it now. That's a good thing. And safety has to be important in boating and in security. But the agencies have not coordinated. Each is doing their own job well, but they're not coordinating with one another. And that's what we found right after 9/11 with lots of security functions with police, fire, EMT in New York City and the surrounding areas. So that people have to get together, and we want the Coast Guard to take the lead